Why, hello everybody. Good afternoon. I thought it would be quite a lot of fun if we sat here together and read my story. Would you like that? All right, we're going to begin with chapter 1, so grab your teacups, settle in, and let's begin. Chapter 1, Down the Rabbit Hole. I was beginning to get very tired of sitting by my sister on the bank and having nothing to do. Once or twice I had peeped into her book that she was reading, but it had no pictures or conversations in it. And what is the use of a book, I thought, without pictures or conversations? So I was considering, in my own mind as well as I could, for the hot day had made me feel very tired and sleepy, whether the pleasure of having a daisy chain would be worth the trouble of getting up and picking the daisies, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by me. There was nothing so very remarkable in that, nor did I think it so much out of the ordinary to hear the rabbit say to itself, oh dear, I shall be too late." When I thought it over afterwards, it occurred to me that I ought to have wondered at this, but at the time it seemed all quite natural. But when the rabbit actually took a watch out of its waistcoat pocket and looked at it and then hurried on, I started on my feet, for it flashed across my mind that I had never before seen a rabbit with a waistcoat pocket or a watch to take out of it, and just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. In another moment, I went down after it, never once considering how in the world I was going to get out again. The rabbit hole went straight on like a tunnel for some way, and then dipped suddenly down, so suddenly that I had not a moment to think about stopping myself before I found myself falling down what seemed to be a very dark well. Either the well was very deep, or I fell very slowly, for I had plenty of time as I went down to look about and wonder what was going to happen next. First, I tried to look down to see if I could see anything, and then I looked at the sides of the well and noticed they were filled with cupboards and bookshelves. I took down a jar from one of the shelves as I passed. It was labeled orange marmalade, but to my great surprise, it was empty. I did not like to drop the jar for fear of killing somebody, so I managed to put it on one of the cupboards as I fell past. Well, I thought to myself, after such a fall as this, I shall think nothing of tumbling downstairs. How brave they'll all think of me at home. Why, I wouldn't say anything about it, even if I fell off the top of the house, which was very likely. Down, down, down. Would the fall never come to an end? I wonder how many miles I've fallen by this time, I said out loud. I must be getting somewhere near the center of the earth. Let me see. That would be 4,000 miles down, I think. For, you see, I had learnt several lessons in this sort when in my schoolroom, and though this was not a very good opportunity for showing my knowledge, as there was no one here to listen to me, still it was good practice to say it over. Yes, that's about the right distance, but then I wonder what latitude and longitude I've got to. I had no idea what the slightest that latitude and longitude was either, but I thought they were very nice grand words to say. Presently I began again. I wonder if I shall fall right through the earth. How funny it will seem to come out at the other end with the people that walk with their heads downwards. The antipathies, I think. She was rather glad that there was no one listening at this time, for it didn't sound like the right word. But I shall have to ask them what the name of the country is, you know. Please, ma'am, is this New Zealand or Australia? And I tried to curtsy as I spoke. Fancy, curtsying as you're falling down a well. Do you think you could manage it? And what an ignorant little girl they'll think me for asking. No, it will never do to ask. Perhaps I shall see it written up somewhere. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do, so I began talking again. Dinah will miss me very much tonight, I should think. Dinah was my cat. I hope they'll remember her saucer of milk at tea time. Oh, Dinah, my dear, I wish you were down here with me. There are no mice in the air, I'm afraid, but you might catch a bat, and that's very like a mouse, you know. But do cats eat bats, I wonder? and here I began to get rather sleepy and went on saying to myself in a dreamy sort of way, do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? And sometimes do bats eat cats? For you see, as I couldn't answer either question, it didn't matter which way I put it. I felt that I was dozing off, and had just begun to dream that I was walking hand in hand with Dinah and was saying to her very earnestly, now, Dinah, tell me the truth. Did you ever eat a bat? When suddenly, thump! Down I came upon a heap of sticks and dried leaves, and the fall was over. Alice was not a bit hurt, and I jumped up onto my feet in a moment. I looked up, for it was all dark overhead. Before me was another passage, and the white rabbit was still in sight, hurrying down it. There was not a moment to be lost when I looked, and off I went like the wind, and was just in time to hear it say, as it turned a corner, oh, my ears and whiskers, how late it's getting. I looked close behind it when it turned the corner, but the rabbit was no longer to be seen. I found myself in a long, low hall, which was lit up by a row of lamps hanging from the roof. There was doors all around the hall, but they were locked, and when I had went all the way down one side and up the other, trying every door, I walked sadly down the middle, wondering how I was ever going to get out again. Suddenly, I came upon a 3 little-legged table, all made of solid glass. There was nothing on it but a tiny golden key, and my first idea was that this might belong to one of the doors of the hall. But alas, either the locks were too large or the key was too small, but at any rate, it would not open any of them. However, on the second time round, I came upon a low curtain I had not seen before, and behind it was a door about 15 inches high. I tried the little golden key in the lock, and to my great delight it fitted. Alice opened the door and found that it led into a small passage not much larger than a rat hole. I knelt down and looked onto the passage into the loveliest garden you have ever seen. How I longed to get out of that dark hall and wander among those beds of bright flowers and those cool fountains. But I could not even get my head through the doorway. And even if my head would go through, I thought, it would be of very little use without my shoulders. Oh, how I could shut up like a telescope! I think I could, if only I knew how to begin. For, you see, so many out-of-the-way things had happened lately that I thought that very few things indeed were really impossible. There seemed to be no use in waiting by the little door, so I went back to the table, half hoping that I might find another key on it, or at any rate, a book of rules for shutting people up like telescopes. This time I found a little bottle on it, which certainly was not here before, I thought. And tied around the neck of the bottle was a paper label with the words, "Drink me," beautifully printed on large letters. It was all very well to say "drink me," but I thought that I was not going to do that in a hurry. No, I'll look first, I thought, and see whether it's marked poison or not. For I had read several little nice stories about children who had gotten burnt, eaten up by wild beasts and other unpleasant things, all because they would not remember the simple rules their friends had taught them, such as a red-hot poker will burn you if you hold it too long, and that if you cut your finger very deeply with a knife, it usually bleeds. And she had never forgotten that if you drink from a bottle marked poison, it almost certainly will disagree with you sooner or later. However, this bottle was not marked poison, so I ventured to taste it. And finding it very nice, it had in fact a sort of mixed flavor of cherry tart, custard, pineapple, roast turkey, toffee, and hot buttered toast. I very soon finished it off. What a curious feeling, I thought. I must be shutting up like a telescope. And so it was indeed. I was now only 10 inches high, and my face brightened up at the thought that I had now the right size for going through the little door into that lovely garden. First, however, I waited for a few minutes to see if I was going to shrink any further. I felt a little nervous about this, for it might end, you know, I said to myself, in going out altogether like a candle. I wonder what I would be like then. And then I tried to fancy what the flame of a candle looks like after the candle is blown out, for I could not remember ever having seen such a thing. After a while, finding that nothing had happened, I decided on going to the garden at once. But alas, when I got to the door, I found that I had forgotten the key, and when I went back to the table for it, I found I could not possibly reach it. I could see it quite plainly through the glass, but I tried my best to climb up one of the legs of the table, but it was too slippery, and when I tried that and tired myself out, I sat down and cried. "Come, there's no use in crying like that," said Alice rather sharply. "I advise you to leave off this minute." I generally gave myself very good advice, though I very seldom follow it. And sometimes I scold myself so severely as to bring tears to my eyes. And once I remembered trying to box my own ears for having cheated myself in a game of croquet that I was playing against myself. For this curious child was fond of pretending to be two people. But it's no use now, I thought, to pretend to be two people. Why, there's hardly enough of me to make one respectable person. Soon my eye fell on a little glass box that was lying under the table. I opened it and found in it a very small cake on which the words read, "Eat me." They were marked in beautiful currants. Well, I'll eat it, I thought, and if it makes me grow larger, I can reach the key. And if it makes me grow smaller, I can creep under the door, so either way, I'll get into the garden, and I don't care which one happens. So I ate a little bit, and anxiously to myself, which way, holding my hand on top of my head to feel which way I was growing. And I was quite surprised to find that I remained the same size. To be sure, this is what generally happens when one eats cake. But I had gotten so accustomed to expecting nothing but out of the ordinary things to happen that it seemed quite dull and stupid for life to go on in the common way. So I set to work and very soon finished off the cake. And that's the end of chapter 1. Join us again for next week when we read chapter 2 and see what happens next. Cheers!